What up, YouTube? I am your host, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, back in here with one more video. All right, guys, listen, on my Patreon, I just got this request. Alpha Male Strategies debates whether men should get married. Gotta get in here. Gotta talk about this one. You know, now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever done an AMS reaction without having a lady sitting right in here, you know? First time for everything, all right? Now, it appears as that AMS was on the Roommates show, okay, which is a podcast. I guess it's like a visual podcast because it's not just audio. And he was talking about a whole bunch of things. So this is just a clip from that longer one, but I'll leave a link down in the description box down below to watch the entire video. Without further ado,
I think with the way the laws are set up today, it's just not favorable for men. Mm-hmm. I would be a fool to get married. And then guys say, well, you got a prenup. Well, now I got to sit here and try to convince the judge that she didn't sign under distress. Mm-hmm. And it's just not worth it to me. Oprah is never getting married. Mm-hmm. These women understand that it's some other ones too. I think off the top of my head, but it's been some other real rich women that they are smart enough. They're not ever getting married. And so with the way laws are now, I just think it has nothing to do with being with one woman and then like this. I understand most of my audience, and I point this out, is a purple pill guys, and that's guys who understand female nature, but they're willing to get into a relationship anyway. And they ask me about marriage, and I just say with me, it's just not worth the chance. And the thing is, as you guys are on your purpose, you don't know what this thing gonna be. So you might say, okay, we can get married. She's a school teacher, and so our incomes are equal, but you on your purpose. Who's to say what this podcast is worth to Spotify or Tidal or whoever, 10 years from now? Mm-hmm. And you didn't foresee that. Yeah. And that's the issue what guys got to understand is that if you on your purpose and you plan on starting your business, who knows what Alpha Male Strategies is 10 years from now? Mm-hmm. I might be a billionaire, or somebody might say, well, hey, we want you to do Showtime at the Apollo, which leads to movies. You never know. So guys think like, well, I don't do nothing. I make 30 grand a year. What's the big deal? Yeah, if you're on your purpose, you never know what 5 or 10 years from now going to be. Jeff Bezos didn't know he was going to become the richest man in the world. Yeah. You just don't know.
AMS said a whole bunch right there. Let me try to remember and pick it apart piece by piece. The Jeff Bezos thing. So what a lot of people don't realize is that actually his wife helped him found Amazon. So although I 100% understand AMS's point, that particular situation is probably not the best one to use for that example. But I completely understand his points. Fact of the matter is that where you are today is not where you're going to be at tomorrow. And more often than not, the one that's going to be climbing in position and amount of money is most likely going to be the producer, is going to be the man in these relationships, in these situations. There are outliers within that. I reviewed a video not too long ago where a Graham Stephan video where the wife became the breadwinner exponentially. Right? But that's besides the point. But you can't use outliers in order to prove what generally will happen. And the fact of the matter is that you cannot guarantee, but you can raise or lower risk. Although people say prenups are not foolproof, it does lower your risk. It could. It doesn't mean that you can use it, but it's a measure that you can put into place to lower risk, because that's what it's about. It's about what are you doing to lowering your risk. Just because you don't cross the street don't mean you can't get hit by a car. But by not crossing the street, you are lowering your risk. But for sure, a foolproof way to cut your risk is to never get involved from the onset. So if you never expose yourself, you won't be putting yourself up for the risk of something negative happening. That's essentially what he's trying to say. I'm just trying to describe it in a little bit different of a way.
And so in my issue for the man, it's not good. I understand it from the female side. I tell guys this all the time. I understand from the female side, and it simply means this. If you're a 21-year-old woman and you go and get with a 21-year-old man and you give him 20 years of your best of your life, right? And now you're 41, right? and now you on the downside. But now he's just reaching his peak because he's reached his financial, top. Mm-hmm. And now he decides, you know what, that 20-year-old waitress at the job or by the job is, she's been giving me some choosing signals. Yeah. And then I'm looking at her, and she's got 3 kids. She got 3 of my kids, and her body ain't what it was 20 years ago. Yeah. So I get that aspect from the woman that it gives her some assurances that if I give you the best years of my life, that you can't just upgrade me like a car.
Yeah, I also get it too, is if they're not working during that time either. So think about someone who, gives you 20 years, their best 20 years of their life, and they're also doing it in a more traditional sense, right? So they're not working on skill sets, right? They're not building their resume, right? And then you just up and leave, and that can destroy her fabric, right? Her foundation. She has not a leg to stand on, and then she's 40, 45 years old, 50 years old with no skills, and then she has to go get a meaningless job in order to maybe provide and support a roof over her head, and that cycle is not good for a society. It's just not. So I get from a perspective the institution or the inclusion of marriage for building up societies, especially when you consider raising and building a family, because if you rip that away from each other, then you could potentially have a downward spiral from an economic perspective. So I get why, but still, for the breadwinner that is exposing themselves to that risk, and especially if you're doing it without consideration of a family, right? If it's just marriage to get married, right? And you're not putting someone into your life that is there for a specific reason or a purpose. If you're not considering a business reason or a purpose, then to me, you've completely lost your mind, because you're getting married and you're exposing yourself for love, right? Which is asinine to me, but let's move on. Let's hear more of his thoughts.
20 years from now. Yeah. So I get it from their aspect, but I'm just looking at it from my aspect that it don't work for me either, because at that point, now I got to pay you to the day I die for some, I'm not even hitting that, and then you got a new dude. I'll do the child support. No problem. You don't even got to go take me. I'll put myself on child support. Right? I'll put myself, I'm going to be a man. I'm going to take care of my kids. You ain't got to fight me on no child support. It's the point of alimony, losing my house, losing everything I work for.
It's a legal thing that kind of, it's your main hurdle for the marriage.
Yes, that's it.
I kind of want to give a case for marriage.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because he's looking kind of uncomfortable in the seat. Let me also call this out real quick. Shout out to the Roommates podcast. I don't know. They seem to get a lot of these kind of like dope guests up there. So their production value, I see it goes through ebbs and flows. It has nothing to do with the video, by the way. But I noticed that AMS is using what's called a Shure microphone, and it's like the gold standard of microphones, right? Like you'll see it also like in the Joe Rogan podcast. But it looks like my man right here just has a normal just microphone, right? So, and it looks like they're not in a studio or anything like that. So I just wanted to call this all out, right? As to say, hashtag progress over perfection. No matter where you guys are at, there's a lot of young men that use a lot of different excuses not to create content and put it out there. These guys, it seems like they started from the ground and built it completely up. So shout out to them and much respect to them. But from a YouTube creator perspective, I'm like noticing different things. Like that mic that he has in his hand is probably like a $20 mic. The mic that AMS is using, the Shure microphone, is $400 on Amazon right now. How do I know? Because I've been researching it. Okay? Might need an upgrade sometime soon. I'm looking at my mic up here. Anyway, let me get back into the reaction. So you guys have me geeking out from a technology perspective from time to time. Let's get back in it.
I want to
keep your female keep your female clients, brother.
First, I'm Nigerian American. Both my parents are Nigerian, so I come from a completely different culture when it comes to this.
Oh yes,
So the way, my argument with a lot of the red pill guys is too much of their understanding of women and marriage and relationship is American. They understand under the concept of Americans. I personally don't really date American women as much, so that's why I'm a little bit different. So I want to begin with that. But you talked about
they changing too, though.
Huh?
I dated a couple in New York.
Oh, definitely.
They getting westernized.
Definitely. So you gotta be careful with the first generation ones.
Okay.
So I like my girlfriend right now. She's from Germany. She's Germany and Nigerian, so she's not even American.
Okay.
So to me, one of the things I noticed that you talked about was building a legacy for having that generational wealth.
Right.
To be able to, whatever your family last name is, for 200 years from now, you know, it's going to be that name. It's going to be the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, you know, the Bezos, you know, the Zuckerbergs, and then your family last name. So, end of the day, every man hopefully wants to reproduce their offspring. That's the biggest thing. And
let me also touch on this kid point real quick. You know, in considering kind of this construct of marriage and building generational wealth, building a strong family in a two-parent household, and we've gone over on the channel before the numbers associated to the benefit or lowering the risk of not having successful offspring in the world, right? Like, to me, one of the biggest cases for marriage is legacy through children. That's one of the biggest cases. So I'll say that. I'll give that. You know, you guys got that point. That's strike one for y'all. I do know there's a lot of people that come on the channel and say, but you don't need it. Yeah, you don't. But the extra layer of protection that no matter what happens to the man or the woman, that they are locked in together outside of divorce. You understand what I'm saying? And that there's legal bind to keep you there. And hopefully you will get marriage counseling and work it out, as opposed to in a relationship, you like, boom, I'm out of here, I'm done, right? Having a contract to tie two shifty individuals together in a way that is for the benefit of raising children in a two-parent household, I can see how that is an off benefit to marriage. So I wanted to comment on that regarding my thoughts. Let's move on.
Me, I believe, from what my dad taught me, the greatest thing you give your child, obviously the financial thing is a blessing, but it's the mindset. You got to take AMS's mind, and whatever your descendants, you want them to have that same mindset, financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all that stuff. So the number one thing is that
Gotta be
you want your child to be in your home.
Facts.
End of the day, like that's my philosophy. I don't want, you know what I mean, the
child
baby
support.
mama, some dude coming over, teaching all types of stuff, being on her, whatever that, and my child being a part of that. I want my child, my descendants, whoever's gonna, when I die, have all my resources. I want to be raising, educated, instruction, guiding that child in my path. So to me, you want a woman who's gonna be submissive, feminine, and respectful for you throughout that period of time, so that you can be able to healthfully raise a child. Not even you gotta marry forever, but at least to be able to raise and lay out a foundation for the child. So
you know what it is. Here's what I think. I think there should be relationships, and there should be marriage-ships, and then marriage. What is a marriage-ship? I think it's an 18-year contract, right? Or it's a contract that is up until you get that vasectomy, or right, she gets her tubes tied, something where or that contract restarts over at the birth of the last child. There it is. I'm kind of making this up as I'm going along. And at the end of when they get sent off to college or whatever, they start working in their vocation at 18 years, you then review that contract, and you have the opportunity at that point to do a clean break, a clean split, right? Or continue on in a relationship together. I think I need to create some petition, some change.org, you know what I'm saying? Send it to our local and state, federal legislatures, okay? Legislators, all right? And get something written in stone, documented, okay? I think we need something in between, all right? Because we got to have something in between that's more innovative as a way to solve the children thing, because I get it. And at the end of the day, you don't need to be married to be two people in the household. But listen, from a state perspective, and check your states, right? If you're cohabitating in a lot of these states for a certain period of time, it don't matter if you're married. It don't matter. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. So with that being said, I feel like there has to be a step between relationship and marriage that can keep up with this ever-changing time. I'm gonna call that marriage ship, right? It's like signing a contract. It's like signing a basketball contract, but just for 18 years, okay? Just until 18 years, till that last child's born, until they leave the house, and then you have a decision to make at that time. You understand me? Let's move on.
To me, I agree with you. The legalities of marriage is horrible.
Trash.
But in regards to a trustworthy, faithful, respectful woman, and to be able to be someone you want to reproduce with. That's an important thing.
Yes,
and also, you want someone to be able to help allow you to raise that child in your home. So that's why I personally push a lot of my guys to not just waste your time chasing a billion different women, but really to find a good, respectful, feminine, submissive woman to be able to build your family and have that family legacy that you talk about.
And I agree with that. The issue I would have is that a lot of women know they get that leverage with the situation with the child, and sometimes it causes them to not. So this is what I've seen with other guys that's been married, is that the woman knows that now I've got him in a position to where legally I can rape him if he leaves. And this naturally causes a person that when they have that kind of leverage, to now they act different. And what a lot of guys is either to keep that, I become the beta male and just take her mouth or
happy
her
wife,
lip.
happy life.
It's hard to be that dominant, but it's not impossible. If you're willing to walk away, if she's getting too out of pocket and thinking that she has that leverage and power, which is what I've seen a lot of women, that either guys learn how to just deal with her, complain and stuff all the time, or they choose to walk away. The issue I have with it is that it might not be as happy as it could be if she has that type of leverage. You know, when you give a person, anybody leverage, they usually gonna use it.
He's making fantastic. I mean, they're both making fantastic points. And here's the thing: human beings thrive off of incentivizing, right? We are incentive-driven people. The reason why you eat ice cream, there's an incentive of a taste. The reason why you work harder at work, there's an incentive of a promotion or, higher pay, right? We are incentivized. The reason why you want this fancy car is because of how fast it goes, or that it might get you more viscosity. Like we are driven by incentives. And if the policies, the rules, the laws that govern us incentivize somebody where they have more power, right? Then what do I say on the channel? Absolute power can absolutely corrupt. It takes the minority of us that can step outside of our own way and do what's truly good. But more often than not, especially when you get emotions involved in a situation, and we know, a lot more women rely on their emotions than what men do, right? From a logic perspective. When that happens, and if they get bad energy in their ear, and the bad energy might come from their friends, it might come from the lawyer that they contact, and it's like, oh, really? He did this, that. Well, do you know that you're entitled to? Really? I didn't know that, but I don't think that I should, because he's been a good father and da-da-da. But do you look at this number right here? Did you know that? So the thing is like, men are concerned of being involved and invested into the rules and the policies of that, when they know that if it was to break up, the leverage that can be used against them. But I get the roommates dude's point in a way to say, if you want this legacy, you can do it in this foundation of a marriage. But then that's his argument, and that's the part of the value stream that he's focusing on. What AMS is focusing on is, well, what happens if it breaks up? And here's my argument. I say this on the channel all the time, is like, when you're looking at investing your time into anything, whether it be stocks, right? What it is, some job that is in your LinkedIn and is hitting you up for something, right? You have to, or marriage, you always have to think of an exit plan, an exit strategy, okay? Now imagine if that employer hits you up and then you start working there, and like 3 months later, you're like, this is not what I signed up for. What you promised on the way in, right? That dating phase, what you promised on the way in, I'm not getting that right now. You told me I was going to move up in 6 months. I was going to get enhanced pay. You told me this, you told me that, but it's not working out right now. Now, what if that employer says, but we have a contract. You were guaranteed to stay here for this amount of time. Think about all of these industry, music deals, and these contracts that people are signing up for, and they ain't reading on the dotted line. For me, there's a lot of dudes that are getting into what a marriage is without reading on the dotted line or consuming content like this to give them both sides of the coin. Like, this is what can happen to you. This is what can happen to you if this does not turn out. You understand what I'm saying? But I also appreciate Amos's point of what he's saying is that, shit, if it breaks up, I'll put myself on child support. But at the same time, you are no longer, if you're on child support, you are no longer in that young person's life to make sure that you are there throughout their life to ensure that they're the best human being that they can possibly be. Let me go on. There's 1 more minute left, and let's conclude. Let me see what else they got going on.
Yeah. If me and you was negotiating on something and you had the leverage and you know I needed it, I'm not gonna get much pull from you because you have the leverage, and that's the only issue with that. But as far as the child and you raise, my thing when we're talking about the mindset is, yes, I would start my child right off with entrepreneurship. Early, like entrepreneurship. Have your own little candy store or something. We get the whole permit. I heard Dame Dash on the show talking about my son has cookies and all this other stuff. Like, so you want to instill that mindset in him early, but I don't feel like you have to be in the house to instill that in him. I think just long as you in his life.
Okay, so that's fair.
You don't have to be there to instill it, but you're running a higher degree and risk that they don't capture the concepts unless you were there more often than not. You know, that's actually something that, throughout my life that, if I was to ask my dad, like, in terms of making me the person that I am today, like, what do you think were the things that laid into that? And I would say, maybe I'll do a video where I actually ask him and then I'll show it to you guys. I've been thinking through that. But I would think that one of the things that he would say is the amount of time that I had with you, right? I had so much time to talk. And my dad's a talker. Like, he's just a talker. You know what I mean? Like, he's a lecturer. I don't know if you guys have had popses like that throughout, your life that are just talkers. But like, as a kid, I loathed it, right? I remember looking at clocks, right, before I can even tell time, and watching the numbers tick as he's talking. And so this is like at 5, 6 years old. You understand what I'm saying? And not, right? Like, and he would just talk and talk and talk. But it's one of the most valuable things because I remember the hours that he would put into tutelage of different concepts that he wanted me to be aware of. Anyway, there's about a minute left in the video. I'm not going to go through the entire video because I want you guys to go over there. Fantastic content. Shout out to the roommate. Shout out to AMS. This is a short snippet out of a 2 hour long larger video. I think it's about 2 hours, hour and a half or something like that. Feel free to go up there. I thought it was a fantastic video of the portions that I did see. But again, shout out to the content creators. But that's been your video. That's been your reaction. Mediocre tutorials and reviews at gmail.com. Hit me up. I got a Patreon as well where we go in depth into conversations like this in order to improve who you are as a man. Link down in the description box down below. We're creating value over here. That's what we're creating over here. And we got to do it brick by brick. Until next time, YouTube. Peace!